There's a moment in every relationship when you realize you need to have that conversation. The one you've been postponing for weeks, maybe months. Your heart starts racing just thinking about it. Your palms get sweaty, and suddenly doing the dishes seems like the most important task in the world. Sound familiar? If you're watching this video, chances are you're either avoiding a difficult conversation right now, or you've had too many that ended in tears, silence, or worse, emotional distance. But what if I told you that difficult conversations don't have to be relationship destroyers? What if they could actually be the very thing that brings you closer together? Stay with me because I'm about to share the psychology and practical strategies that will transform how you approach these challenging but necessary dialogues. The fear of difficult conversations runs deeper than most people realize. It's not just about the discomfort of the moment. It's about our primal fear of abandonment and rejection. When we anticipate a challenging conversation, our brain interprets it as a potential threat to our connection with someone we love. The amygdala, our brain's alarm system, floods our system with stress hormones, preparing us for fight, flight, or freeze. This is why your body reacts so strongly even before the conversation begins. Understanding this biological response is the first step to mastering difficult dialogues. Dr. John Gottman's extensive research on couples communication revealed something profound. It's not the presence of conflict that predicts relationship failure, but how couples handle that conflict. The couples who thrive long-term have learned to navigate difficult conversations in ways that strengthen rather than weaken their bond. They've mastered what I call the art of vulnerable honesty, the ability to speak their truth while maintaining deep respect and care for their partner. Let me share the story of Emma and David, a couple I worked with who were on the brink of divorce. Emma had been feeling emotionally neglected for months, but kept pushing down her feelings, telling herself she was being too needy. David, meanwhile, sensed something was wrong but felt helpless because Emma always said she was fine when he asked. The tension was building like pressure in a volcano, and they were both walking on eggshells. When Emma finally exploded one evening, accusing David of not caring about her, David became defensive and shut down completely. This pattern had been repeating for months, creating an ever-widening chasm between them. The transformation began when they learned that difficult conversations aren't about winning or being right. They're about being understood and understanding. The goal isn't to avoid all discomfort, but to navigate it together in a way that honors both people's experiences and needs. This requires what psychologists call emotional regulation, the ability to stay present and responsive rather than reactive, even when discussing challenging topics. The foundation of any successful, difficult conversation is what I call pre-conversation preparation. Before you even open your mouth, you need to get clear on three things: your intention, your emotional state, and your desired outcome. Ask yourself, am I approaching this conversation to connect and solve a problem, or am I trying to prove a point and be right? Your intention will determine everything: your tone, your word choice, and ultimately the outcome of the dialogue. Timing is absolutely crucial. Never attempt a difficult conversation when either person is stressed, tired, hungry, or emotionally activated. The prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain responsible for rational thinking and emotional regulation, goes offline when we're in survival mode. This is why conversations that happen during heated moments rarely go well. Instead, choose a time when both of you are calm, fed, and have the emotional bandwidth to engage thoughtfully. I always recommend what I call the soft startup technique, pioneered by Dr. Gottman. Instead of beginning with criticism or blame, start with your own feelings and needs. For example, instead of saying, "You never help with housework and I'm sick of it," try, "I've been feeling overwhelmed with the household responsibilities lately, and I'd love to talk about how we might share them more evenly." Notice how the second approach invites collaboration rather than defensiveness. The concept of I statements versus you statements isn't just relationship advice cliché. It's based on solid neuroscience. When someone hears "you always" or "you never," Their brain interprets it as an attack and immediately activates defensive mechanisms. However, when you share your own experience using "I feel" or "I notice," you're giving information rather than making accusations, which allows the other person's nervous system to stay calm and receptive. Active listening is perhaps the most challenging yet crucial skill in difficult conversations. True listening isn't just waiting for your turn to speak. It's creating space to truly understand your partner's perspective, even when you disagree with it. This means putting aside your need to defend, explain, or correct, and instead focusing entirely on comprehending what your partner is experiencing. When people feel heard, their nervous system calms down, and they become more open to hearing your perspective in return. One of the most powerful techniques I teach couples is reflection and validation. Before responding to what your partner has shared, reflect back what you heard them say and validate their emotional experience. This might sound like, "So what I'm hearing is that you felt dismissed when I checked my phone during our dinner conversation, and that made you feel like I don't value our time together. Is that right?" You're not necessarily agreeing with their interpretation, but you're acknowledging that their feelings are real and understandable. Let's return to Emma and David's story. When they learned these techniques, everything changed. Emma approached David by saying, "I've been struggling with some feelings lately, and I'd love to share them with you when you have space to listen." This immediately put David at ease because he didn't feel ambushed or criticized. When Emma shared that she'd been feeling disconnected and explained specific situations that contributed to this feeling, David was able to hear her without becoming defensive. He reflected back what he heard and validated her feelings before sharing his own experience of feeling confused and helpless when she said she was fine, while clearly being upset. The conversation that followed wasn't easy, but it was transformative. They were able to identify specific actions they could both take to address the issue. David committed to checking in with Emma more intentionally, and Emma committed to being more direct about her needs rather than expecting David to read her mind. Most importantly, they both felt seen, heard, and valued throughout the process. Managing your own emotional reactions during difficult conversations is a skill that requires practice. When you feel your heart rate increasing or notice defensive thoughts arising, use what I call the pause and breathe technique. Take 3 deep breaths, remind yourself of your love for this person and your shared commitment to working things out, and then respond from that grounded place rather than from reactivity. It's also important to recognize when a conversation needs a break. If either person becomes too activated, it's perfectly okay to say, "I can see we're both getting upset, and I want to have this conversation in a way that brings us closer together. Can we take a 20-minute break and then come back to this?" This isn't avoidance. It's emotional intelligence. Sometimes difficult conversations reveal fundamental differences in values, needs, or expectations. This doesn't mean the relationship is doomed, but it does mean you need to navigate these differences with creativity and compromise. The goal isn't always to reach complete agreement, but to understand each other deeply enough that you can find ways to honor both people's needs. Repair work is crucial when difficult conversations don't go as planned. We're all human, and sometimes we'll say things we regret, react defensively, or shut down emotionally. The mark of a healthy relationship isn't the absence of these moments, but the ability to repair them quickly and genuinely. This might involve apologizing for your part in the miscommunication, acknowledging your partner's hurt feelings, and recommitting to approaching things differently next time. Practice makes progress, not perfection. Start with smaller, less emotionally charged conversations to build your skills before tackling the biggest issues in your relationship. Each successful difficult conversation builds confidence and trust, making future challenging dialogues easier to navigate. Remember that some conversations may need to happen multiple times. Complex relationship issues rarely get resolved in a single discussion. Be patient with the process and celebrate the small victories along the way. The fact that you're both willing to engage in these difficult conversations is itself a testament to your commitment to each other and to the relationship. The couples who have the strongest, most fulfilling relationships are not the ones who never disagree. They're the ones who have learned to disagree skillfully. They've developed the emotional intelligence and communication tools to navigate challenges together, emerging stronger and more connected on the other side. If this resonates with you, if you recognize areas where your communication could improve, know that every relationship goes through seasons of communication challenges. The willingness to learn and grow in this area is one of the greatest gifts you can give to your relationship. Subscribe to Self-Mind, hit that notification bell, and join thousands of others who are committed to building healthier, more connected relationships. In our next video, we'll explore how to rebuild trust after difficult conversations have gone wrong, so you won't want to miss it.